I have finally got some free time. What should I watch?
Hey guys, welcome back. So before we get started, there will be links in the description to... So if you find this interesting, I highly recommend that you read this article.
Hello noble ones, welcome back to my channel. This is the Metatron speaking. As I'm sure you could gather from my intro, today I have the pleasure and honour of working with Ian Lespina, aka Knyght Errant, one of my favourite YouTubers. Now before we continue, he's got a magnificent 14th century knight harness. I am sure you're going to like it, it's properly made, it's wicked, and you're going to see that in this video. Alright, so this video is a mobility comparison between my samurai armour and Ian's knight armour. Now, the purpose of this video is not to add fuel to the eternal internet debate of who would be the best warrior between a samurai and a knight, of course. Also because I reckon there is already a superabundance of such videos on the internet, and also because such an approach will be a rather anomalistic approach in any academic confrontation. The reason of that is that both the samurai armour and the knight armour were neither designed nor optimized to face each other in battle, for obvious reasons. Thus, you should take this video and the test we have excogitated as an opportunity to clear some misconceptions and, at the same time, to have each other's idiosyncratic opinions as wearers of these two well-made replicas of armours. Also, if you haven't already, please make sure to check out Ian's video, or Ian's version of this video on his channel, because it will have a different conclusions, of course, and a different introduction. Alright, without further ado, let's get to it.
Alright, so here's a shot of my armor. Culture, late medieval, Western European, as we said before, with stylistic leanings toward England specifically. Time period, turn of the 14th, 15th century, so centered right around the year 1400, with maybe give or take 15 years to either side of that. Weight, 60 pounds total. The mail shirt that I'm wearing under the armor is the heaviest individual component of that. And one thing to keep in mind is this type of armor is very well distributed, and the bulk of that load is borne on the waist and hips for comfort. Intended use. Like I said, my harness leans toward English styling, and at this point in history, that means that certain features on that armor are optimized for fighting on foot, like the fully enclosed cuisses, the thigh armor, and the fully articulated from shoulder to wrist arm harness. Weapons. So some of the weapons that this type of armor could expect to see on the battlefield, both used against it and used alongside it, would be things like lances, the poleaxe, various types of swords, crossbows, and longbows.
Here is a picture of my armour, which is a Tosei Gusoku, or modern armour. Culture, Far East, Japanese. Time period. Well, my armour is a classic 1582 to 1600 kind of armour. So we are in the Sengoku period, or Sengoku Jidai, which was a period of near constant military conflict in Japanese history. Weight. Weight is roughly speaking around 52 to 57 pounds, more or less. Now, traditional samurai armour, which was called yoroi, hung down from the shoulders, but the most noticeable difference between Tosei Gusoku and traditional yoroi is in fact the tailoring, considering that Tosei Gusoku tapered at the waist and was designed so that the hips would share most of the armour's weight. Intended use. Again, differently from previous samurai armor sets, which were designed for mounted combat and sometimes mounted archery as well, the modern armor, or Tosei Gusoku, and specifically the Okegawa Do, which was the most popular kind of armor, was lighter and more flexible, and simpler versions started to be also used by foot soldiers, which were called ashigaru. Weapons. As far as the weapons that this kind of armour was designed to withstand, of course, we have spears, the kanabo, a spiked club, swords, arrows, But also, interestingly enough, this armour was built with arquebus in mind, and many Okagawa dorsuits went out onto the battlefield displaying dents because they had been tested against arquebus balls. Alright, so here are my final conclusions, and I'll try to keep them short, mostly because I don't want to be too over-redundant, considering the fact that I think most of the things are quite self-explanatory and perhaps even obvious from the test that we have made. But I'll say those points and I will state those things that I think could be interesting and worth some thought. So the first thing is that we can see immediately that both armours don't actually hinder movement that much, and there are a lot of things and plenty of movements that we can do that a lot of people actually don't think we can actually be able to do. And I think one of the most significant ones would be that both the idea of being able to stand up quite quickly and be ready for combat again if it were to happen that a knight or a samurai were to fall on the ground. So this is a very important thing, because often some people depict this idea of knights kind of being like turtles, not being able to move. That is utterly ridiculous. But another very important one is the one where we put our kneel on the stool, so we even go up the stool. I think that is significant because it gives us the idea of whether the knight and the samurai could mount their horses and the stallions and steeds by themselves, or if they needed, for example, help from other people, or dare I say, cranes. So I think that proved the point quite easily. If I could stand on a literally very small stool without any problems, that even jumping on a horse or riding a horse wouldn't be that much of a problem. Running, walking and jogging were also interesting. Of course you can run, but the idea of being able to run in armor is interesting, because often we imagine, if I've got a samurai and a knight and I start running away, then he's never going to catch up. Well, it really depends on how trained he is, because you have to consider that, yes, I wear armor and I've been wearing armor for quite a lot of years, but I am never at the level of an actual professional warrior like a knight or a samurai would have been. So the fact that I can run already means that probably one of those wearing armor, a real knight or a real samurai of that age, would have been really, really quick at running. It could have probably charged you with all the extra weight. That is very significant. But another part that I particularly liked is the part where I think we find the only real difference between the two sets, the pauldrons. Now, as you can see, his pauldrons are more protective. So European armour pauldrons, particularly the set that we're talking about, his 14th century English armour, covers completely this part of the torso. So he is more protected, whereas for the samurai armour, this one here, particularly the 16th century armour that I own, would be a vulnerable point for the samurai. But why did the samurai choose that? Well, one of the reasons is clearly movement, because you can see that the range of movement that Ian has is limited compared to the one I have. And the reason for that is simply not because the Japanese did not know how to cover or create armor here, or not because the European didn't think that they could actually leave that open to grant better mobility, but it's a choice. And it's always a matter of choice when we talk about armor creation and design. The knight is choosing in that case to receive better protection and lose some of the mobility, because he already has enough mobility to wield the weapons that he's going to use with no problems. The samurai, please keep in mind that we're also archers, so he needs more mobility in the arms, hence the decision also to have a semi-rigid protection for the sleeves, which again has less protection value compared to the actual plate, hardened plate that the knight has, but allows you for better extension of the arms, which allows you to use a bow effectively. And as a matter of fact, as I have explained in a dedicated video that I will leave a link in the description below, with a samurai armor, the way it's organized with lacing and stuff, you can actually untie the sleeve, which will fall, half of the sleeve will fall in just one movement, just literally 2 seconds, in order to have full range of motion. And then if an opponent were to come too close, you just need your teeth to fasten it back again, and you're ready to fight. So again, these are all choices. They are definitely different armors because they were thought in different ways. And one last point for the pauldrons that perhaps people might say is that, well, but then a samurai is probably going to face other samurais who are going to shoot him with arrows, so they could hit him here. Well, that's why the most common posture of combat for samurai was to lean forward as you were holding your spear or your yari, because that way you would actually protect yourself from arrows. And considering that it's basically a scale armor, then it would actually work very effectively, and as they would meet in combat, then they would take back a normal position. Okay, so finally, I would just want to say thank you so much to Knight Errant for this opportunity. It was fantastic, and it was really, really fun. Please consider subscribing to his channel if you haven't, for more knowledge, and because he's a very, very knowledgeable person and a very humble person as well. Alright then, thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please remember, thumbs up, share it on Facebook, Twitter, Tumblr, whatever you want. And if you haven't, subscribed to my channel for more content from the Metatron. And remember, the Metatron has spread his wings. Goodbye.